Let's go now to Michael Cardoza, KTVU legal analyst. So, Michael, what did you make of today's closing arguments? I want you to start first with the prosecution.
All right. I thought they did a very, very good job. It's difficult to criticize other lawyers, especially lawyers of this caliber. The only thing I would make comment about, besides they did a wonderful job, they laid out the evidence, they laid out the law perfectly. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more emotion that would have conveyed to the jury that they really believed in their case. Having said that, they did a great job.
Yeah, Michael, you mentioned they really took those jurors today back to all of the testimony that they heard from witnesses. Also, pointing out the video once again. And then that sentence, from the attorney that this was not policing, this was murder. Effective?
Very effective, because if you watch that video, what other conclusion can you come to? The second-degree murder is what we call in California a felony murder. It's if you commit a felony, even though you don't intend to kill anybody. For example, you walk in a grocery store to rob it, and you don't mean to shoot anybody, but your gun goes off accidentally. The law implies the malice and therefore second-degree murder, and that's what the government's looking for here. Now, what we have to watch for, Heather, here is, and keep in mind, we've talked about hung juries before, and usually that's 9 for guilty, hypothetically, and 3 for not guilty, 10 to 2, 11 to 1. But in this case, you've got a second-degree murder, a third-degree murder, and a manslaughter. That jury could hang on degree and say, 10 of them say it's a second-degree murder, and 2 of them say it's a second-degree manslaughter. That's a hung jury if they can't compromise to a verdict. And the other thing I would be very cautious of, because it's happened here in California, where the appellate courts have reversed a case saying that the jury came back too quickly. How could they have vetted the evidence in this case? So this jury has to stay out a while. So I would imagine the prosecutors want a quick verdict, but not too fast.
Yeah, you make good points there, Michael. I want to move to the defense today and its closing arguments. You mentioned this idea of raising some doubt. Do you think that the defense was able to do that? Obviously, they laid out this idea of what a reasonable officer would have done in a similar circumstance. And also the defense really pointing out that, you can't take just this 9 minutes that's on video, that they wanted to make the jury, really think about the entire police encounter that day.
I thought he made very good points. I thought he did a very good job in arguing the case. I know when he talked about beyond a reasonable doubt, he said it's like baking cookies or baking a cake. You've got all the ingredients, and if one is left out, you don't have cookies or a cake, so therefore you can't convict. Now, that's a very old argument. I was hoping he could have been a little more creative in talking about reasonable doubt. But that's an old, tried and true analogy to what a reasonable doubt is. So I thought he did a good job. He had to work with the facts as presented to him. The one big thing he did hammer, and I thought he should have emphasized it, is that he wasn't trying to assault him. He didn't do that underlying felony that you need for a second-degree murder. In other words, he didn't walk into the store to rob it, so therefore somebody got shot. They didn't prove that underlying felony, and he did hit upon that. But all that being said, he had a long road to go. And you mentioned he acted as a reasonable police officer. What flies in the face of that, Heather, look at all the police officers that testified, including the chief of police, that said he wasn't reasonable. And that's what the jury's going to listen to.
Yeah, and Michael, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I do want to bring up something else that came after the jury received the case. The judge today expressing some frustration with elected officials, including California's own Maxine Waters. She was speaking to some protesters in Minnesota, and she basically said that if there is a not guilty verdict in this case, well, let me read what she said. She said, "We're going to stay on the street. we get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business. Obviously, Michael, this is a really sensitive moment right now. Defense arguing that Maxine Waters was inciting violence.
Well, she was. I mean, look at what she said. And I don't blame Judge Cahill. The first thing that happens is that $27 million verdict gets announced when they could have kept that under wrap. And what Miss Waters is doing is saying to the jury, hoping they'll hear this, if you don't bring back a verdict, so she's trying to subvert justice in that sense, you better bring back a verdict or we're going to riot. That's not the way it works. Justice is what the verdict is that this jury brings back, and you're not supposed to fuss with them in any way. So can he hold her accountable? Yeah. Probably not. But it is frightening that people do things like that. I understand the emotion. I understand the frustration. But let justice work. Don't threaten that type of thing, because we all know it's simply wrong.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the judge really expressing frustration over that. All right, Michael Cardoza, really appreciate it. As we mentioned, this case now in the hands of the jury, and we here at KTVU will be following it. So be sure to tune in with KTVU and KTV.com for the very latest on the Chauvin murder trial, as well as the upcoming verdict.